Welcome to the Finding the Magic podcast, where books come alive. I'm Tricia Copeland, a fiction author and host of this show. If you love books, finding great reads, and hearing about the story behind the story directly from the authors, this is the place for you. Whether you like fantasy, science fiction, dystopian, or romance titles, I think you'll find something to love in my playlist. Listen in to discover something magical about a book or two today.
Hi, Peter.
I'm your host, author and podcaster Tricia Copeland, and I love getting behind the scenes.
I'm so excited.
If you like the podcast, really. Make sure to subscribe and stop in each week to discover new authors and books.
I'm excited.
Thanks for listening, and until next time,
to learn all about your work.
Finding the magic.
Today we have Peter English. He is a poet, so a little bit different writing format than my normal guest, I guess. But we talked a couple of weeks ago. I was on your podcast, so I'm super excited to learn all about your work. Where would you like to start? I know that all of your books, well, I think I know that most of your books are organized or groups of poetry around central themes. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to start with your first work and how you got started, or should we move backwards?
Yeah, okay. I would love to start from my first book, titled Ecstasy of the Dead, which was published 2020. That's actually, I don't have a copy of it here with me. It's a collection of poems that I've written over the years. Actually, the first time I knew or remember I started writing should be around 2018. Yeah, when I had a bit of some challenges. And I think those challenges actually brought out the poet in me. And then I started voicing down and penning, writing my thoughts, but like a diary, actually. Even when I started, I had no idea what I was doing. I never even knew what I was writing, except even poetry. I remember I had to reach out to one of my friends, or my high school friend, actually, who was a well-known poet as at that time when I first started. I was like, hi, please, I have some things I wrote. Can I send them over to you on WhatsApp? Could you tell me what genre, what exactly they are? Then she read it and said, okay, I think this one can be called an article and this one can be called poem. I said, oh, poem. Oh, interesting. Yeah, so basically, I'm writing poems when I had no idea what I was doing, actually. I was just writing. So that's how I get into writing. And the poems I've written all over the years are what I compiled together into that makes my first book, Ecstasy of the Dead, which I'm currently working on. It's currently in the editing state with my editor. I've received the copy actually. I just need to go back again and fix the errors, the corrections the editor sided off so I can republish it. Yeah. So yeah, I'm starting with Ecstasy of the Dead. It's a collection of poems that are quite theoretical in nature, quite deep, philosophical. I love exploring the theme of philosophy very well. So that's how my first work came to be. And then I've had other works too. I have my second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth book, which I think would cover on as the interview goes on.
And so at what point you learned that you were writing poems? Did you go back and study how poems or how different poems are structured? Because isn't there types of poems and they're structured differently?
Yeah, those times actually, after realizing what I was writing, it's poetry, this is something that's entirely new to me. And sometimes when things are entirely new to you, you have to sit back again and, retrace your step, check all those things you've written in time past and kind of consider and compare it to what contemporary poets write. Yeah, so I think what I do actually is, first of all, I have to follow the voice in my head, the inspiration. I pen my poems down. Then I started reading more and more poems. I remember I read one of our local poets in Nigeria. I just now went to the bookstore. I told the attendant there that I would love to get some poetry books. So yeah, hilariously, actually, I'd love to tell a very funny story. When I went to the store with my intention to get a poetry book so I can compare with what I've written, because I did not study literature in school. I wasn't even an art related. So all my life has been science.
Okay.
I did public health. I've been in science all this while. I never knew about literature. So it's when I started writing, then I had to go back again and say that, okay, I think this is actually nice talent. So I remember going to the bookstore, I got a copy of some couple poems. The first one I read was quite nice. And there's another one that I particularly read, which inspired me to eventually publish my first book. Because when I read it, I'm sorry to say that I wasn't so intrigued. I was like, really? If this book can be sold for, I think it was 900 naira. And I was like, and the poems, I'm sorry to say that the poems are not so well, I wasn't so intrigued. And I was like, well, why don't I just publish my own book? I mean, the fact that I read this book and I wasn't so impressed with it kind of intrigued me to do mine. I was like, really? I can do more than this. And hilariously, the person was praising my state governor, how they supported him, blah, blah, blah. I was like, can you imagine? And look at the poems you've written with so many praises, acknowledgement. I think so. I was like, okay, nice one. I'm going to have to sit back again and write my poems and publish a book. So I do not really study anything related to literature. All I do actually is read more books, read books in the genre of poetry, then go on social media, follow poets, read more about their works, and just explore. Then along the line, I started learning how poems have been crafted, the use of words, the qualities of poetry, though what I think my poem are basically, they're more like a free verse poetry because I'm not the type that love reading, rhymes, etc. Though I know they're also part of quality of poetry, but it's not a must that all poems should rhyme. It's not a must that all poems should have alliteration as qualities or meter, etc. But then I think what I love writing is are free verses because I love the way the words comes to me to put it down without any form of alteration, just so that the message in the poem is not lost in the process of trying to follow the qualities of poetry. So I just try to make my words as raw as possible, as free as possible. And yeah, I did not study poetry. I just developed the passion and developed myself in it through online courses. Things are available. Even by watching YouTube videos, you can learn a lot. Yeah, so yeah, that's actually come with crafting or reshaping my craft actually.
Well, I mean, just like just different genres of books, people are going to be
Mm,
drawn to different styles of poetry and different topics of
absolutely.
poetry. And so, yeah, and there's probably a poem for everyone, but
Yeah.
not everyone is going to love every poem.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that your first book, I mean, it's talked about a kind of sounded a little bit dark. What other themes do you explore in your poems and in your other books?
Yeah. Well, I've heard that a lot, really. Even from the title, you can easily tell this dark title. Looks a bit like light at the end of the tunnel. These two, dark cover, dark. I'm like, wow, you always write something dark. Anyway, so the team I don't know if you love me to talk about this first, Fate in the Dungeon of Doom. Yeah,
Yes.
the team, like I mentioned, I love philosophy. I don't know why. I just I love thinking. I love to sit down and just start thinking. Sometimes my thought could just lead me. I'll just travel so far in thought. So when I wrote Fate in the Dungeon of Doom, which is a very hard book to write, because sometimes when I look back to it currently, I'll be like, wow, Peter, that's so sad. That's so cooling. How do you even get to write this book? But I'm so excited that I wrote it. So this, like if saying the title, Fate in the Dungeon of Doom, then it has a subtitle here. Hasi are words to explain the reality of a man's fate. Hasi difficult are words to explain the reality of a man's fate. So this is more like a contemplation that I have about the fate of a man, how human fate get to be. So many questions about destiny, about the outcome of a man's life. So I was asking questions, some of which I cannot provide answers to because I love asking questions in my poetry. I love questions. And I think that's one of the things that's so beautiful about being a writer, being a philosopher too. So I was asking questions about the reality of a man's fate. What is fate? I mean, what is destiny? We all know that everybody on earth is assigned a fate. Now, my question is, what is fate? Who controls fate? Can human fate be controlled by human themselves, or there's another supernatural force that controls the making of a man's fate? Okay, now, then I bit diversify and tend to apply my questions to the happenings in a man's life. I mean, take for instance, you have people who die in war, who die because of some certain tragic, occurrence. And I get to ask, is that their fate? Are they destined for that tragic end? At some point, I look at fate as a curse in some part. Very, very terrible, really. And it's a very difficult book to talk about, really. Then at some other point, I look at fate as a lover. At some other point, I look at fate as a stringent spirit. But I was just asking questions. I mean, who controls a man's fate? Do we human being control or have power to control our own fate? I mean, even if I say this is what I'm going to become in future and I end up becoming something else, who is at fault? Is it my fate? Or so there's a lot of questions about the making of human fate. I mean, people that died of so many tragic occurrences. How about wealth? I mean, how about poverty? How about so many crazy things happening in the world? Who makes our fate? And do we have power to control the outcome of our life? So the poem actually is written from the perception of a very dreadful, dejected, frustrated narrator, which I think makes it added more alluring text to it actually, because the narrator was basically spawning from one end to another, asking questions, difficult questions that he was hoping the reader would provide answer to. So I love to ask questions in my poetry, and I love to leave my readers provide answers to them. So then the second part, because the book is actually made up of third section, three parts. The first part is totally centered on the themes of fate. So here you get to have 13 poems, all on the subject of fate. Then the second poem is a story of Kohame, who is a Nigerian man gone missing, and the afterword of his disappearance on his mother, Vanessa, and his younger brother, Etean. So for so many years, Kwame has gone missing, and Vanessa keep searching for him. She's a Christian, but the missing or the loss of her child got her making inquiry, consulting some gods of Africa. I mean, traditionalists, going to meet some seers to know where the whereabouts of her son, even though she was a Christian. So she was so dejected, she was frustrated. She paid money to some fake prophet. She was scammed countless time. They told her son is going to arrive so date, but whenever she wait, the son did not come. So it was a roller coaster again on the theme of fate, as Vanessa kept laying blames and praying and, asking questions. Why does she have to suffer the loss of her child? She had no idea where her child is, if she's dead, if he's dead, or if he's alive. Someone just went disappearing for no reason. So it's a very hard poem to write to, very difficult. Then the third part explores on other themes. So that's how Fate in the Dungeon of Doom came to be. Yeah. I'm trying to be time conscious so I don't
That's okay.
talk, over the time.
No, I don't set hard time limits, so that's fine. So do you consider that book to be religious and any
Yeah,
sort of religious, or is it more spiritual?
yeah, actually, it's more like a philosophical collection, I would say. And though there are theme of religion in, there's so many themes in here. I mean, the first part is the theme of religion, taken from the point of view of Vanessa, who was a Christian, but challenges led her to leave Christianity. Not really leaving Christianity, I mean, she had prayed to God, but she got no answer. So she consulted oracles. I don't know if you know what they call oracle here in Nigeria. They're like, you're going to meet a traditionalist or an herbalist or a seer. Then they would consult the god in their own belief. Then whatever the god tells them, they would convey it to their visitor. So Vanessa thought like she can just, explore other religion. So she has been to so many gods. I mean, gods like Ogun, which is a god of, I think, god of lightning and thunder. She conducted Osonyi. She conducted so many gods actually, Shango too, the god of iron, so many of that. But I kept reassuring us. So in here, there are themes of religion, and I wouldn't really say it's Christian based. It's just a story, narrative poetry actually, because it's more like poem that tell a story. So everything I'm gonna be reading, it's like a story, but it's told in form of poetry. So there are theme of religion in it, there are theme of spirituality in it, but more particularly, they all center on philosophy. More like philosophy is a basket that contains, I mean, there are themes of pain, very, very crucial. I need to mention that there are theme of pain, especially from the first part, the Poems of Fate. In the Poems of Fate, you have the theme of pain, lamentation, questions, philosophy, fatalism. I mean, I explore the theme of Epicurean, philosophy, Stoicism, so many of them. So philosophy is like the basket that contains these so many themes, all in one single book. Yeah.
And why this theme of fate? It seems like an overarching question
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah, because I love, like I mentioned, I love questions. And when I wrote the book, actually, I think I was a bit confused. So I was just asking so many questions about fate. Like, where is fate? I remember one of the crucial reason, or one of the crucial point of the narrator is trying to find his own identity, trying to find his purpose in art. And he was confused, he was dejected, he was frustrated, this and that. So there are so many, and I love the topic of fate, and I'm still looking forward to exploring more on the theme of fate. There's some title ringing in my head. I'd love to explore more on the theme of delay in relation to human fate, because you know we all have fate. We human beings are destined for a fate on heart, but our fate differs from person to person, and sometimes when good things happens, I tend to ask myself, is it fate? I mean, okay, then okay, what if when bad thing happen, is this still fate? Then again, most people in the Christian fold, and this is where the all mix up come from. In here, you'll find teams of Christianity, of other teams, other religion. More like in the Christian belief, they say a man's fate is controlled by God. Okay, now, what happens when a man passes through some difficult, terrible happenings in life? Would you say it's a making of God, or is a making of his own fate? So all of these things is what I love to talk about, to demystify, to ask questions, to lay blame, to put a balance, and to just leave my reader thinking. Actually, I've got so many people say, wow, that's such a very deep book. It got me thinking long after I've read it. And yeah, that's what I love, to evoke emotion in people. It's very emotional, very sad as well. That's why I said pain also is in the theme in there. There's lamentation in it. There's fatalism. There are questions. There are confusion from the narrator, yeah. And fate is the overaching theme. More like you see, there's more like an identity or someone here, like I mentioned next to my cover design. Then this is the dungeon of doom, and this happens to be fate. So this is fate in this dungeon of doom. So this dungeon of doom, the walls, everything, you know, en encompass human suffering, human pain, human challenges, the hard issues of life. I mean, we're all human, and we've been through some crazy things that are unpalatable, things that make human cry. So all of these are what I look forward to exploring the theme of faith. Yeah. So that's how I love to put it, really.
Yeah, I have so many questions, but I want to talk about a couple of your different books too, but I just wanted to mention because to me, if you're thinking about fate and what is my fate and maybe why certain things happen or why good things happen or why bad things happen or negative,
Mm,
say good and bad, negative or positive or Anyway, like you're on the opposite flip side of that, you're kind of asking about the meaning of life. Like that those two, I don't know if you feel like those two go hand in hand, but for me, that's the question you're asking about. Like,
Yeah.
what is my fate? Why am I here? A little bit
Yeah, absolutely.
exploring that. I do want to ask about your story, Muhammad, and can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, like I mentioned, Kohame is a story of a Nigerian man gone missing.
Oh,
And
okay.
the
So this
after
is the one
and
you just talked about, maybe.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, I've talked about it already.
Okay. Sorry, I missed that.
Yeah.
So A Cry for Mercy trilogy. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah. There's a copy here, A Cry for Mercy. That's a trilogy. This is A Cry for Mercy. And I so much love the reception of it on Amazon. Yeah, there's a first book in the series. Then I have Are the Demon Slave, which is the second book. Yeah. Then there's the third book, I Saw the Light. Yeah, so the actual title is Escape from the Unseen Dungeons. And I have A Cry for Mercy as the first book. Second book, Are the Demon Slave, and I Saw the Light. So yeah, A Cry for Mercy to me, I love to consider it a book of plea and lamentation. More like I mentioned, I love exploring the theme of human tragedy. I just love writing about the difficult things of life. I don't know why. I just love, and not really trying to evoke too much emotion. I love to evoke emotion and try to give hope to those who have been through some terrible things in life. I mean, the world is a crazy place to live, and we know that the happiness is fine, it's good to be joyful, but then there's some times that we feel dejected, we feel frustrated. What should like I There's a part in the book where I would love to not really read, but mention, yeah, what should we do in days of adversity? What is our lot in hard time? Shouldn't we cry out for mercy? Then there's another part here that says, to those who are trapped in the web of lamentations, hopelessness, and heart-wrenching dejection, do not be weary. There is surely a way out from the hard things we do not know. So yeah, so A Cry for Mercy is more like a book of plea and lamentation where you have the narrator, just like we've seen in the title, sitting down with hands up, cry for mercy, save me, help me, cry for so many things in life, asking questions to about his own identity, about his life, about what fate asks for him, about what he's here for. So many questions about the pain he has been through, about how long he's gonna suffer before he have a good life, so many things. And hilariously, so many people that have read this book, I've got so many responses. Wow, Peter, this speaks to my life. And, that's one of the things that I love as an author. I love it when I write a book and I got emails and I got messages say, wow, your book is so deep. I can feel my pain in there. You convey my tragedy. As in, some people say I cry alongside with it. I say, yeah, actually, because it's a cry for mercy. And I actually remember shedding a couple of tears myself when writing it. So yeah, it's expected that you cry a bit if you're too engulfed in the story, in the narration. So it's more like a book of plea and lamentation, still on the theme of spirituality too and philosophy. Yeah. Yeah. And as I proceed in the series, we have the theme of demonology in here, of spirituality, of spiritual bondage and all. Then I saw the light comes to be. So here I have so many themes. I have themes of pain and lamentation. I have themes of spirituality because in the book, the narrator also explores the reality between the physical realm and the spiritual realm. I mean, we're in the physical realm where we can see physically, we can touch, but it was trying to place a balance to on which control the other. Does the physical realm has power over the spiritual realm, or does the spirit control the physical? And which should a man take more seriously? And I mean, so in here, the narrator was just talking so many things, actually, so many things, especially on the themes of like the physical and the spiritual realm, trying to know if anything happens to a man in the spirit, it affects his physical life and vice versa. So so many things tucked in: spirituality, spiritual bondage, pain and lamentation, philosophy, questions as well, questions about life, I mean, and religion also. But I don't like to call it thoroughly religion because this is something that I attempt to be read or that I wanted to be read by so many people, irrespective of a religion. You don't have to be a Christian, you don't have to be a Muslim, you can be from any religion, but you will still relate to it because spirituality is no respecter of one's religion. But spirituality applies to everyone, irrespective of what religion you have. And also to buttress the fact that the world is spiritual. I mean, I've got some atheists email me and said, "Oh, sorry, Peter, I cannot review your book because I don't believe in spirit. I don't believe in demons. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in this." And I'm like, "Okay, fine. It's fine. It's fine. I know I'm not trying to preach or trying to force you to believe in my ideology, but I'm just trying to pass a message, which I think most people would relate to. Yeah. So that's how this come to be.
Well, it's so interesting to me that it in that trilogy, you're kind of bringing people through an arc of they're crying out. I
Yeah.
mean, lamentation, you're crying out, you're saying, I have a problem, I have pain. And usually when you
Mm,
talk about moving through a problem or moving through an incident, the first step is admitting that you're in pain, right? And then the
yeah.
second book, you're maybe leading them through that. And then the third book is about seeking the light. So it's kind of interesting how you have that flow
Absolutely.
of, the hope in the end, maybe a little bit. It's
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's how it come to be actually. And that's how the whole series came to be. Escape from the unseen dungeons. Another word for unseen, escape from the invincible dungeon, the dungeons we cannot see with our physical eyes. And that title itself, I think, explores spirituality. I mean, how can you escape from the dungeon you cannot see? Escape from the unseen dungeon. Okay, I cannot see the dungeon, but I'm trapped into it. I mean, I'm trapped in a web of things, more like you're in captivity, actually, but you cannot see. It's not like a physical captivity where you have chains tied over your ankles or over your legs and you cannot move. So many people are actually tied. And I mean, it's not physical chains, but they are chains, are spiritual chains tied in somewhere. So that's how all of this come to be: escape from the unseen dungeons. And I remember talking about the dungeon guards. Yeah, I remember talking about the dungeon guards in the book. So all of these details with the tears in here, the cry in here, and how the demons are living in here, still in the dungeon actually, still laying down, and the demons are leaving to the eventual escape in the third series. That's the captured narrator running out of the dungeon after he had saw the light. Yeah,
Well, that
so
makes a lot of
that's
sense. Yeah. Because I mean, a lot of times if you're feeling low or frustrated, you don't exactly know why, right? You kind of
yeah,
have to dig in and really ask yourself those hard
absolutely.
questions. So,
Yeah, yeah. That's how it come to be. Yeah.
well, I'm convinced. I'm downloading. You can tell me which one is your favorite and which one I should download.
I
So
think you would love to start with a cry for mercy.
I
This
think
would be
so
great,
too.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, a cry for mercy would be great. So you can have an idea of how the narrator starts with his frustrated life.
Everybody's
Yeah.
life has frustrations. So yeah.
It is human. Yeah.
So talk to me about P English literature and this thing you've grown that seems like a movement almost.
Yeah, when I first published my book, um, that was 2020. That was when I had my first book published. That's like 4 years ago, actually. Yeah, so I was looking for a platform, an avenue to promote my work, and it was so quite hard, especially as an indie author. We all know the how so hard it takes to market a book, to get your work out there after publication. Let people know that there are quite a lot of good books out there. So going on YouTube, I see that most of the books people talk about are well-known books. I mean, the famous books. These guys are already famous. You guys are still talking about it. My God. How about the platforms of self-published authors? So I've reached out to a good number of YouTubers. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't do self-published books. I'm sorry, I don't do indie book because there's this stigma out there about indie books being bad, being terrible, being horrible, not well edited. And that's not necessarily all the case. I mean, there's so many stigma actually out there about indie books. So after so many attempts and so many frustrated, then I thought to myself, I was like, okay, they're not gonna review my book. Neither they're gonna have me on their show. Fine. Why don't I just start my own show? I mean, start a show where you can review books yourself. And at this time, not famous books. I mean, books by self-published authors, little-known authors, authors who have passion, who are talented like myself, but do not have the avenue to get their book out there. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to create a platform that will be particularly centered on indie author in terms of reviewing their books, in terms of interviewing them, and that's why I started English literature. I first started actually with poem recitation, with a couple of book reviews. I got so many people send me books from America and said, yeah, Peter, I'd love you to review my book. And that's how I started 2020. The first book I reviewed was Chana Barker's memoir, Fearless, Conquer the Demons of Mental Purgatory, which I found to be so heart-wrenching and very beautifully written. So that's how I started English literature. And since 4 years now, we've started growing. We've interviewed close to 500 authors, even more than 500 authors, actually. And we've reviewed so many books, more than 350 books. And even though I'm primarily focused on self-published authors, I mean, I've got so many requests of some traditionally published author reaching out and say, yeah, I'd love to come on your show. I'd love to be interviewed. And I said, okay, well, I wouldn't love to push you guy away because I'm a very kind person. So if you want to come on the show, fine. Then we just have to make a little edit of our niche or of our goal and mission or about us, about P. So I was like, even though P English literature is primarily focused on self-published authors, we have soon expanded also in interviewing and also reviewing traditionally published books. So it's been 4 years coming. It's a very hard one because sometimes it's very frustrating. You're doing reviews and doing, when I first started, actually, it's very frustrating. You're doing reviews and spending time reading a book, filming, editing, and eventually you have 50 views or 10 views or 20 views. Be like, geez, why? So it's frustrating at the intro, but I just keep doing it over and over again. Join so many groups on Facebook, shared far and wide, build an audience, and it's amazing. We even have a platform on Facebook with 2,000 members, P English Literature's Facebook group, yeah. And yeah, that's how P English Literature came to be. It's quite amazing. Yeah, I'm so excited about it, and I'm looking forward to doing more great works. And also, I've expanded it a bit that we'll be hosting physical book clubs in my city, but people can also join virtually online. So it will be recorded. And I just spoke with a few people tonight about it. That was where I was actually coming from. I was coming from an open mic to join this interview. So there I met a good number of people to tell them about the upcoming book club. They're like, yeah, I'd love to join. I'd love to be part of it. So I'm amazed, I'm excited, I'm happy, and I'm looking forward to, growing it the more and expanding our reach, actually. Yeah.
Fun. That's amazing. I'm inspired. Yeah, I started my podcast in 2020 mainly just to
Oh.
talk to other authors because I was missing that interaction that we had going to conferences and book signings and meeting up with people.
Absolutely.
And so
Yeah.
I thought this is a good way. I mean, it gives us all exposure and I get to talk to them and figure out what they're doing next,
Yeah.
what they're doing now. So, on the heels of that, what are you doing next?
Yeah, actually, I'm currently working on my seventh book, which is The Complete Poems of Kuhame, but it's still titled Kuhame Come Home. So this covers because in this fate in the Dungeon of Doom, the poems of Kuhame, I think it's 13 poems. So, but so far, the story has developed in my head. And I was like, okay, I can add the theme of illegal migration actually to it as per the disappearance of Koami and etc. So it has been ringing in my head and I'm currently working on it. I'm currently writing it. I think I'm not sure how quick I'll be done. Hopefully I can publish that before the end of this year, say November or December. I'd love to do that. But yeah, that's the book I'm currently working on. And again, I also have another book here, Whose Fault, Kismet or Impediment, which is subtitled Difficult Queries to Demystify the Realness of the Human Fate Amidst Obstacles. Yeah, these are my contemplation on obstacles, fate, and human. Three entity. We human being, I don't think there's no human being on earth who hasn't experienced obstacle in one or two ways in their life. I mean, there are times there are obstacles, but how do we discern how to carry on with these obstacles? I mean, how do we know how to react to these obstacles? Should we embrace them? Should we reject them? Should we do against them? And I mean, what is the making of obstacle? Is it the making of God? Is it the making of some evil forces? Or is it the making of man himself? So obstacle is something that stands in the way of human from achieving a certain goal, or something that hinder people from doing certain things. So in here, I was kind of asking questions, more like, again, from a difficult, so many people have told me that this book, Whose Fault, Kismet Impediment, it's more like a follow-up book to Fate in the Dungeon of Doom. Because in here, I was talking about fate, questions on fate. So in here, it's more like questions on fate and obstacles. So it's more like a continuation of what I have in Fate in the Dungeon of Doom. This one too, just like this one, it is very sad, hard, so difficult to read, and also explores. This is just written in two sections. The first part is the poems of obstacles, where I have so many poems centered on the themes of obstacles. And the second part, another poems. Yeah, so this is well done, actually. This is my third book. And my seventh book that I'm currently working on is the complete poems of Kohame, which I'm looking forward to publishing, say, November or December this year. Yeah.
That's exciting. Yeah, all of these themes are pretty much across the board, can apply to any human, right? So I think those are great things to explore and dive into, and have people ask questions of themselves, like, what do I think about this? What do I feel about this?
Absolutely.
That's exciting. Well, I'm super excited to have you and have everyone learn about your poetry. Tell us where to find you and your books.
Yeah, I am on Amazon. The only platform that I'm currently is on Amazon. If you go on Amazon.com, Amazon.co.uk, Amazon.au, Amazon everywhere, and type Peter Okonkwo on the search box, you would see all my title come up. I think this is the first one that I come across. According to algorithm, the one with the highest reviews is the one that is shown the more.
Right.
So all of my title comes up, and you can find them. Yeah. Then even if you go on Google and search for my name, you'll find me on Google. Yeah, but the only platform where you can find it, it's on Amazon everywhere. Yeah, they're all available on Amazon. And yeah, you can find me. Peter, Peter, then Okonkwo is spelled Okonkwo.
Awesome. Thank you. And we'll have all your links in the description so people can find you that way too.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, I so much appreciate it. I'm excited. It's only been a while I talk about my books, actually. Yeah, but I really appreciate this opportunity. Thank you so much, Tricia. This was fun doing, and thank you for having me on your wonderful platform. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a nice night.
Yeah, and you too.
Bye.
That was quite fun, really.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Finding the Magic podcast. I'm your host, author and podcaster Tricia Copeland, and I love getting behind the scenes. If you like the podcast, make sure to subscribe and stop in each week to discover new authors and books. Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep finding the magic.